You know what drifting feels like. You wake up, you move through the day, you scroll, you react, and by the time you stop to breathe the hours have slipped through your fingers. Drifting is not laziness, it is a silent current that pulls you where you never intended to go. You might even look busy, but busyness is not progress. It is motion without direction, and motion without direction leaves you stranded in the same place year after year. The painful truth is that drifting is easy because it asks nothing from you. No choices, no confrontation, no discipline. But that ease has a price, and you already know it. The price is regret. The price is knowing you are capable of more but settling for less. When you drift, you live by default. Other people's priorities set your schedule. Outside noise decides your mood. The past writes your future. You become a passenger in your own life, watching as your dreams fade into background static. That is the invisible prison most people never escape. They tell themselves they will act when the timing is better, when they feel ready, when life finally gives them space. But that timing never comes. And so the drift continues. Discipline is the opposite current. It does not wait for ideal conditions. It does not ask for permission. It does not negotiate with fear. Discipline interrupts drift. It cuts through the current and says, no. I choose this path, and I will walk it. Discipline demands something in the short-term effort, discomfort, sacrifice, but it gives something far greater in return, freedom. Freedom to direct your energy instead of losing it to distraction. Freedom to build momentum instead of watching opportunities slip away. Freedom to respect yourself because you followed through. Think about the difference. Drift says, I'll start tomorrow. Discipline says, I start now. Drift whispers, it's too hard. Discipline answers, that is why I will do it. Drift rationalizes, no one will know if I skip today. Discipline declares, I will know, and that is enough. The difference between drifting and discipline is not talent, not intelligence, not resources. It is simply the decision to stop floating and start steering. And once you make that decision, everything changes. You cannot defeat drift with wishes. You cannot think your way out of it while sitting still. Drift ends only when you act with intention. That action might look small at first, waking up at the time you said you would, finishing the task you promised yourself, saying no to the distraction that always steals your focus. These are not random acts. They are proof. Proof that you are in control. Proof that your word means something. Proof that discipline is taking root. Most people believe discipline is restriction, a cage that kills spontaneity. The truth is the opposite. Drift is the cage. Drift locks you into repetition without growth. Discipline is the key that unlocks progress. When you build discipline, you create a system that guarantees results. Because habits built by discipline do not depend on moods or motivation, they keep you moving even when you feel tired, even when doubt whispers, even when no one is watching. So let's get brutally honest. Where are you drifting right now? Is it your mornings, wasted in the fog of distraction? Is it your health, postponed until some imaginary future? Is it your work, scattered across endless starts without finishes? Identify it. Call it by name. Because until you confront it, it owns you. But the moment you declare, no more excuses, you start the shift. You cut the rope that kept you drifting, and you set the sails of discipline. Every life-changing transformation begins with that moment. The moment you say, enough. I will no longer be carried by the current. I will choose my direction. That is what this system is about. Not theories, not inspiration that fades when the video ends, but a framework you can practice every single day until results are inevitable. From drift to discipline. From uncertainty to clarity. From excuses to unstoppable habits. Say this now as a declaration, not a suggestion. I will not drift. I will discipline myself. I will replace excuses with actions that guarantee results. Light bulb comment below, from drift to discipline if you are ready to stop floating and start steering your life today. Pushpin, and if this message spoke to you, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss your daily discipline reset. Most people believe their progress is held hostage by how they feel. If the mood is right, they move. If motivation is high, they take action. If the energy feels low, they surrender to delay. That cycle is the reason lives drift. Because emotions are volatile. They rise, they fall, and if you anchor your discipline to feelings, you will only act when it is easy. But discipline does not belong to easy. Discipline belongs to hard. And results only come to those who keep moving even when their feelings are screaming for comfort. Think about the last time you broke a promise to yourself. Was it because you could not do it, or because you did not feel like doing it? That difference matters. Excuses often wear the mask of emotion. I am too tired. I am too stressed. I am not in the right mood. But underneath all of those is the same truth: you surrendered the steering wheel to feelings. Feelings are passengers, not drivers. The moment you allow them to dictate your choices, you are back in drift. Here is the law most never understand: you do not wait for discipline to feel good. You act first, and the feeling follows. You go to the gym not because you are motivated, but because you said you would. You open the book, write the page, make the call not because you feel ready, but because readiness is built by action, not before it. Motivation is not a spark from the outside, it is fuel produced by movement. The more you move, the more energy you generate. The more you wait, the weaker you become. The drift thrives in the waiting room of feelings. It whispers that tomorrow you will be in the mood. It promises that when circumstances are perfect, then you will act. But tomorrow is a trap. Perfect conditions are illusions. Discipline says, I act regardless. It says, I decide once, and I honor that decision every day. It does not consult your mood, it does not need approval from comfort. That is why discipline wins where emotion fails. Imagine this. Two people set the same goal. One waits until they feel like working. The other shows up whether they feel like it or not. Fast forward 1 year. One has drifted through hundreds of excuses, the other has stacked hundreds of reps. The gap between them is no accident. It is the compounding effect of choosing action over emotion. That is the silent math of discipline. It multiplies results quietly while others are still negotiating with their feelings. So how do you break free from the grip of emotions? First, you separate decision from mood. You decide once, in clarity, who you want to become. That decision becomes the contract. After that, you no longer ask yourself, do I feel like it? You ask, did I honor the contract today? Second, you shrink the entry point. Do not tell yourself you need to feel inspired to run 5 miles. Tell yourself you need to put on your shoes and step outside. The act itself generates the energy to continue. Third, you celebrate proof, not feelings. At the end of the day, it does not matter if you felt motivated. What matters is you did what you said you would. Proof is fuel. Every time you act against your feelings, you are training your identity. You are teaching yourself that your word is stronger than your mood. That lesson compounds. Soon, the question of do I feel like it disappears, replaced by this is simply what I do. That is the transformation from drift to discipline. Drift is governed by moods, discipline is governed by principles. Drift asks for comfort, discipline asks for commitment. Drift waits for the right moment, discipline makes the moment right. And here is the truth you must face: if you only act when you feel ready, you will never be ready. Readiness is built in the doing. Confidence is built in the keeping of small promises. Power is built in the consistency of action, not in the randomness of emotion. Every day you obey your feelings, you weaken your future. Every day you choose discipline, you strengthen it. Say this now as a vow: I will no longer let emotions decide my destiny. I choose discipline. I choose action over feeling. I choose consistency over comfort. Lightbulb comment below: discipline over emotion if you are ready to stop waiting for moods and start acting with power. Pushpin, and if this reset spoke to you, subscribe and hit the bell so you never drift back into the grip of excuses again. You have been told to wait for motivation, as if it is a lightning strike from the heavens, a spark that arrives at random and transforms you into a person of unstoppable action. That is the myth most people live under. They sit back, scroll through empty entertainment, waiting for that magical moment when they finally feel inspired enough to move. But here is the reality no one wants to accept: waiting for motivation is waiting for nothing. Because motivation is not the cause of action, it is the result of it. Think of the last time you did not feel like starting, but once you did, momentum carried you forward. The hardest part was not the work, it was the start. That is the proof. Motivation is not fuel stored in some hidden tank. It is generated by action. The act itself produces energy, confidence, and clarity. But if you insist on waiting until you feel motivated, you will remain in drift, forever circling in hesitation. Drift thrives on the illusion of motivation. It convinces you that tomorrow you will wake up ready. It tells you that when the stars align, when you feel inspired, then you will act. But tomorrow comes, and you feel the same. The stars never align. The truth is brutal: if you wait for the right feeling, you will wait for life. Motivation is a byproduct, not a starting point. Action first, emotion after. Discipline does not ask, "Do I feel ready?" Discipline says, "I start, and readiness will follow." The science of momentum proves this. Once you move, even a little, your brain releases signals that reinforce progress. Your focus sharpens. Your energy rises. Your confidence grows because you see yourself in motion. That is why small beginnings are powerful. Writing one line often turns into a page. Doing one push-up often turns into a workout. Making one call often turns into a productive day. The drift loses its grip the moment you move, because action kills hesitation faster than any speech or pep talk. So how do you harness this law? Stop treating motivation as a prerequisite. Treat it as a reward. Decide in advance what actions you will take, regardless of mood. Then shrink the barrier to entry. If the thought of running 5 miles feels overwhelming, commit to putting on your shoes and stepping outside. If writing a full chapter feels heavy, commit to writing one paragraph. The action will unlock the energy to continue. By the time you are moving, the motivation you were waiting for will be generated by the proof of action. Most people confuse motivation with desire. Desire is passive, you want the outcome. Motivation is active, it comes when you move toward it. If you let desire fool you, you will stay trapped in longing. If you let discipline lead, desire transforms into drive because you now have evidence you are in pursuit. The formula is simple: action creates belief, belief fuels motivation, motivation sustains action. Break the cycle of waiting, and you step into the cycle of winning. This is why discipline is superior to inspiration. Inspiration can fade. Discipline, once installed, is not dependent on the weather of emotions. Discipline guarantees that action happens today, and the act of action guarantees that tomorrow you feel stronger. That is the system that makes results unstoppable. So make this vow now: I will not wait for motivation. I will act, and by acting I will generate the strength and drive I need. Lightbulb comment below: action creates motivation if you are ready to stop waiting for the spark and start building it yourself. Pushpin, and if this truth reset your perspective, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that action beats drift every time. Drift loves chaos. When your schedule is loose, when your priorities shift every day, when your actions depend on mood, drift has already won. Because drift thrives where there is no structure. It feeds on randomness, distraction, and lack of order. You may tell yourself you are free without rules, but freedom without structure is a trap. It is like a ship without a map, technically free to move anywhere, yet destined to go nowhere. The truth is simple: discipline collapses without structure, and results vanish without systems. Most people resist structure because they think it kills spontaneity. They imagine that having rules will make life rigid, boring, mechanical. But look closer. The people who create real results, the athletes, the leaders, the creators, all live by structure. Their habits are not random, their schedules are not left to chance. They know that when the day is unstructured, excuses creep in. Drift sneaks through the cracks of freedom that has no boundaries. Structure is not a prison. Structure is protection. It is the guardrail that keeps you on the road when distraction pulls at you from every direction. Without structure, every small temptation becomes a derailment. One skipped morning leads to a wasted day. One vague plan leads to hours lost in distraction. One flexible decision becomes an open invitation for procrastination. Drift multiplies in those gaps. But when you impose structure, those gaps shrink. Your time has a frame, your actions have a sequence, your day has anchors that pull you forward. That is how you kill drift, not by willpower alone, but by designing an environment that supports discipline. Think about it like this: willpower is a muscle, but muscles fatigue. If you rely only on raw willpower, you will eventually fold. But structure reduces the need for constant decision-making. It removes the endless question, should I do this now or later, and replaces it with, this is what I do at this time. That clarity saves energy. It removes hesitation. It turns discipline from an occasional act into a daily rhythm. Here is the paradox: rules create freedom. It is the rule of getting up at a fixed time that frees you from wasted mornings. It is the rule of limiting distractions that frees you from scattered focus. It is the rule of starting before you feel ready that frees you from procrastination. Every structure you install becomes one less battle with drift. And as those rules compound, discipline becomes automatic. What once felt forced becomes natural, and what once felt like sacrifice becomes identity. So how do you build structure without overwhelming yourself? Start with anchors. Choose 2 or 3 non-negotiables that frame your day. Wake up at a set time, work on the most important task first, review your progress before bed. These anchors are not negotiable with mood. They are non-negotiable because they define who you are. Once anchors are set, layer in supporting habits. Protect the hours when your focus is sharp. Guard the routines that give you clarity. Create environments where the right choice is the easy choice. This is the discipline system: decisions made once, repeated daily. You do not decide every morning whether to get up, you already decided, and structure enforces it. You do not decide every day whether to work on your goals, you already built the system that makes it inevitable. That is the power of structure. It shifts your energy from constant debate to consistent execution. And here is the ultimate truth: chaos is expensive. Every moment you drift costs you energy, time, and confidence. But structure pays dividends. Every rule you install creates stability. Every routine you practice builds momentum. Every system you design reduces excuses. The more structure you live with, the freer you actually become. Because freedom is not the absence of rules. Freedom is the ability to choose rules that serve your vision instead of living at the mercy of drift. Say this now as a declaration: I will not fear structure. I will build systems that protect my discipline. I will trade chaos for order, and in that order, I will find freedom. Lightbulb comment below: structure builds freedom if you are ready to design the guardrails that kill drift and guarantee results. Pushpin, and if this reset gave you clarity, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily systems that turn discipline into destiny. Every excuse you speak is more than words, it is an identity statement. When you say I can't, you are not describing a moment, you are shaping who you believe yourself to be. When you say I'll do it later, you are training yourself to become someone who breaks promises. Identity is not some abstract thing you find one day, it is built in the patterns of what you repeatedly tell yourself and repeatedly do. That is why excuses are so dangerous. They don't just waste time. They rewrite who you are becoming. Most people underestimate this. They believe excuses are temporary, harmless justifications for a single skipped task. But excuses accumulate. Each one leaves a mark on your self-image. Over time, they become the soundtrack in your mind: I am not consistent. I am not disciplined. I am the type who quits. And the more you repeat this story, the more your actions align with it. Drift is not random. Drift is the identity you train with every excuse you allow to live unchecked. But here is the law: identity can be rewritten. And it is rewritten by discipline. Every time you refuse an excuse, you cast a vote for a new identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, you prove to yourself, I am the kind of person who follows through. Discipline is not just about results, it is about self-respect. It is the act of declaring, this is who I am, regardless of how I feel, regardless of what is easy. That declaration repeated enough times reshapes your identity. Think of it like this: when you let excuses define you, you are building a house on sand. It crumbles at the first storm. But when you replace excuses with discipline, you lay bricks of proof one by one. Each action becomes a brick. Each fulfilled promise becomes cement. Over time, you construct an identity that cannot be shaken. That identity carries you through chaos, fatigue, and failure because it is no longer about willpower, it is about who you are. So how do you rebuild identity from discipline instead of excuses? First, catch the language you use. Stop saying, I am bad at this. Instead, say, I am learning to master this. Stop saying, I always quit. Instead, say, I am becoming the person who finishes. Your words matter because they are instructions to your mind. Second, pair those words with actions, however small. Write the page. Show up to the workout. Finish the call. Each action is evidence that your identity is shifting. Third, reflect daily. Ask yourself, what identity did my choices build today? If the answer is drift, you adjust. If the answer is discipline, you repeat. Over time, something powerful happens. The excuses feel foreign. They no longer match the person you know yourself to be. Instead of identifying as someone who struggles, you identify as someone who stands. Instead of identifying as someone who drifts, you identify as someone who directs. This shift is irreversible once enough proof is stacked, because identity, once solid, carries its own momentum. Do not underestimate this: excuses are not small, they are identity theft. Every time you make one, you give away a piece of who you could become. Discipline is how you reclaim it. Discipline is how you declare, this is me. This is who I am. I am the kind of person who does what I said I would do. And when that becomes your identity, results are no longer unpredictable. They are inevitable. Say this now as a vow: I will not let excuses define me. I am disciplined. I am a finisher. I am building an identity of strength that excuses cannot break. Lightbulb comment below: I choose discipline if you are ready to destroy the identity of excuses and build the identity of unstoppable results. Pushpin, and if this identity shift spoke to you, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reset that keeps you aligned with who you are becoming. It is easy to act disciplined when the room is quiet, when the schedule is clear, when the path is smooth. Anyone can show consistency when nothing interrupts. But life is not quiet, not clear, not smooth. Life is loud, messy, unpredictable. The world throws chaos at you daily: sudden problems, unexpected demands, distractions that flood your attention. This is where most people surrender. They tell themselves, it is too much right now. I will get back on track when things calm down. But here is the truth: things never calm down. Chaos is not an interruption to life. Chaos is life. And that is why discipline must not depend on calm. Discipline must be proven in the storm. Drift loves chaos because it gives you excuses. It whispers, you deserve a break, you are too stressed, tomorrow will be better. Those whispers feel comforting, but they are lies. Because tomorrow will bring its own chaos. And if you are waiting for peace to begin discipline, you will never begin. Discipline is not tested when conditions are perfect. It is tested when conditions are against you. That is where true strength is revealed. Most people live under the illusion that once things are organized, then they will commit. They believe that once the schedule clears, once the stress lifts, once the pressure eases, then discipline will become easy. But that day never comes. What happens instead is a lifetime of waiting. Chaos remains the permanent excuse, and drift becomes the permanent condition. If you want to break free, you must flip the law: discipline is not delayed until chaos ends. Discipline is built inside chaos. Think of the strongest structures in the world. Bridges, towers, fortresses. They are not designed for perfect weather. They are built to stand in storms, to endure earthquakes, to resist pressure. Discipline is the same. It is not worth much if it only survives calm. It must be forged to survive chaos. And the only way to forge it is to practice discipline exactly when chaos hits. The very moments you want to surrender are the moments that build your resilience. So how do you hold discipline in chaos? First, simplify. Chaos is overwhelming because it multiplies your decisions. Cut the noise by narrowing your focus to what matters most. Ask yourself, what is the one non-negotiable action today that proves I am disciplined? Then do it, no matter what storms around you. Second, anchor yourself in routines. Routines act like stabilizers. Even when the world shifts, your anchors keep you steady. A morning practice, an evening review, a daily commitment, these are the rituals that chaos cannot steal unless you let it. Third, reframe chaos. Instead of seeing it as a reason to quit, see it as training. Every chaotic day survived with discipline is a repetition that strengthens your mental muscle. When you start to treat chaos as your gym, discipline grows beyond comfort. Soon you realize the storm is not your enemy, it is your training ground. The more you act with discipline in chaos, the more you trust yourself. You know that no matter how unpredictable life gets, you remain steady. That trust is priceless. It transforms you into someone who does not drift at the first distraction, who does not collapse at the first obstacle, who does not wait for perfect order to create progress. The irony is that once you master discipline in chaos, life feels calmer. Not because chaos disappeared, but because you stopped fighting it. You stopped waiting for things to settle and started building inside the storm. That shift gives you control. And control creates peace even in pressure. Say this now as a vow, I will not wait for calm to be disciplined. I will prove my discipline in chaos. I will train in the storm until no excuse can move me. Lightbulb comment below, disciplined in chaos if you are ready to stop waiting for peace and start building strength in the storm. Pushpin, and if this truth anchored you today, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that discipline is forged where drift fails, in chaos. Focus is not something you stumble upon. It does not appear because the room is quiet or the world is kind. Focus is stolen every second by noise, by notifications, by the endless demands that scream louder than your priorities. Most people live with the illusion that they will be focused when distractions disappear. But distractions never disappear. They multiply. They evolve. They creep into your day disguised as opportunities, disguised as obligations, disguised as harmless entertainment. And if you do not actively guard your focus, drift will take it from you. Think of how quickly a day can vanish. One moment of scrolling turns into an hour. One meaningless conversation replaces your deep work. One glance at an alert shatters the rhythm of concentration you built for 30 minutes. Focus is fragile. It is not stolen in big chunks, but in small cuts. Each cut by itself feels harmless, but together they bleed out your momentum. That is how drift operates, not through dramatic collapse, but through the slow erosion of attention. Most people never notice this erosion because they confuse busyness with focus. They fill their calendars with meetings, their hours with tasks, their screens with tabs, and convince themselves they are moving. But true focus is not about activity. It is about alignment. It is the decision to channel energy into what actually moves the needle. Without that choice, you can work endlessly and still drift endlessly. Focus is not about doing more, it is about protecting what matters most from everything else. The truth is harsh, the world does not care about your focus. It will not stop calling, buzzing, pinging, pulling. If you wait for silence, you will wait forever. That is why focus is not found, it is guarded. You must build walls around it. You must treat it like the most valuable asset you own, because it is. Money lost can be earned again. Time lost is gone forever. And attention, once fractured, cannot be fully recovered. Guard it as if your life depends on it, because your future does. So how do you guard focus in a world designed to break it? First, create boundaries. Do not let random noise enter sacred hours. This may mean turning off devices, closing doors, shutting down platforms. If people cannot reach you for a block of time, you are not rude, you are serious. Second, set priorities before the day begins. If you do not decide what matters, the world will decide for you, and it will never choose your highest calling. Third, train your attention like a muscle. Start with short, deep sessions. Expand gradually. Reward yourself not for hours wasted in distraction, but for minutes invested in clarity. Drift says, I will focus when I get time. Discipline says, I create time by focus. Drift says, I can handle noise. Discipline says, I eliminate noise before it handles me. Drift is passive, discipline is protective. That protection is the difference between scattered years and results that compound into unstoppable momentum. When you learn to guard focus, something changes. The noise does not disappear, but it loses its power. You stop reacting to everything that moves and start directing everything that matters. Each focused session becomes proof that you are no longer drifting. And as those proofs stack, results become inevitable. Because success is not built by bursts of effort. It is built by the relentless protection of focus, day after day. Say this now as a vow, I will not let noise steal my future. I guard my focus. I protect what matters most. My discipline builds a wall no distraction can break. Lightbulb comment below, I guard my focus if you are ready to stop giving your future away to noise and start defending the clarity that makes results unstoppable. Pushpin, and if this reset sharpened your vision, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that focus is not found, it is guarded. The world tells you to wait for big breaks, for life-changing opportunities, for that one moment where everything finally shifts. But here is the truth, miracles are not events you stumble into, they are results you stack day by day. Most people fail not because they lack talent or vision, but because they underestimate the power of small wins. They think progress must be dramatic, loud, visible to everyone. They ignore the quiet victories that build unstoppable momentum. And so they drift, waiting for an explosion of change that never comes. Drift thrives on impatience. It whispers, this little action doesn't matter, it's too small to change anything. And when you believe that, you dismiss the very foundation of progress. You skip the workout because one day feels irrelevant. You skip the reading because one page feels tiny. You skip the work session because 1 hour feels powerless. But the truth is this, small wins are not insignificant. They are the only kind of wins there are. Big wins are nothing more than small wins multiplied and compounded over time. Look at how mastery is built in any field. Athletes repeat drills thousands of times. Musicians practice scales until their fingers know the movement by memory. Writers fill pages that never get published, but sharpen their craft with every word. None of those actions seem monumental in the moment. But stacked together, they create mastery that looks miraculous to outsiders. People call it talent, luck, genius. But behind it all is discipline, the discipline to collect small wins relentlessly. The human brain thrives on proof. Each time you complete a small win, you show yourself evidence that you can be trusted. That evidence compounds into belief. Belief compounds into confidence. Confidence fuels more action. That is the cycle of growth. Small wins are not just about progress, they are about identity. Every win whispers to your mind, I am disciplined. I follow through. I move forward. And as those whispers grow, excuses lose their power. Drift cannot survive in the presence of consistent proof. So how do you harness the power of small wins? First, redefine success. Do not measure it only in massive achievements. Measure it in daily consistency. Success is not writing a book, it is writing today. Success is not transforming your health, it is making the healthy choice today. Success is not becoming wealthy overnight, it is managing today's discipline with your resources. Second, track your proof. Keep a record of your wins, however small. A journal, a checklist, a log. The act of recording reminds your brain that progress is real, and that evidence fuels momentum. Third, celebrate discipline, not results. Results take time, but discipline is immediate. The moment you keep your promise, you have won. Celebrate that win, and repeat it tomorrow. This shift from chasing miracles to stacking small wins transforms your entire relationship with growth. You no longer live in the future, waiting for the big break. You live in the present, creating breaks every day. You no longer feel powerless when results are slow, because you know results are inevitable when wins are stacked. That certainty kills drift. Drift has no argument against daily proof. Understand this, every big success you admire is built on boring repetition. The extraordinary is hidden inside the ordinary, done with extraordinary consistency. Stop waiting for lightning to strike. Start stacking sparks until the fire is undeniable. Small wins are not optional, they are the system. They are the unstoppable engine of discipline. Say this now as a vow: I will not wait for miracles. I will stack small wins daily. I will build momentum that excuses cannot stop. Lightbulb comment below: I stack wins if you are ready to stop chasing miracles and start compounding daily victories. Pushpin, and if this reset shifted your perspective, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that small wins create unstoppable results. Excuses are rarely born fully formed. They grow in spirals, small thoughts that loop again and again until they trap you. It begins with one whisper: I am tired. That whisper becomes, I don't have enough energy. Then, it won't matter if I skip once. The spiral tightens. Soon it has grown into a narrative that feels unshakable: I can't do this right now. I'll do it later. That is the spiral of drift, tiny thoughts spinning into walls that keep you still. The danger is not the first thought. Everyone feels tired, overwhelmed, doubtful. The danger is the loop. When you let the thought repeat without interruption, it multiplies. It gathers evidence from your past failures. It collects excuses from your current emotions. It predicts a future where quitting feels inevitable. The spiral accelerates until it feels impossible to resist. That is why so many lives remain stuck. Not because people lack talent, but because they never break the spiral. The opposite of spiraling is cutting. Action is the blade. Thoughts multiply endlessly when left alone. But when you move, even in the smallest way, the spiral is shattered. You cannot think yourself out of a loop. The more you think, the faster it spins. The only way out is movement. One push-up, one word written, one call made. That action disrupts the cycle. The mind was spiraling into excuses, and suddenly proof appears: you did something. That proof breaks the chain. Most people wait for clarity before acting. They believe if they think long enough, they will untangle the spiral. But overthinking is not clarity, it is drift in disguise. The spiral thrives on thought. You cannot outthink it. You can only outrun it with action. That is the discipline difference. Discipline says, I act while my mind is spinning. And in that action, the spin slows. In that action, momentum builds. In that action, the spiral collapses. So how do you train yourself to break spirals quickly? First, recognize the early whisper. The moment your brain says, I don't feel like it, that is your signal. Do not wait for the spiral to grow stronger. Second, design a trigger action. Something so small it cannot be refused. If the spiral says, don't work out, your trigger is to put on your shoes. If it says, don't write, your trigger is to open the document and write one line. That action is the cut. Third, celebrate the cut itself. The goal is not perfection, it is proof that you refuse to spiral. Each cut trains your identity to resist drift faster next time. Over time, something powerful happens. The spiral no longer has the same grip. You begin to see it forming, and instead of being trapped, you smile, because you know how to break it. You act. You cut. You prove again and again that excuses are fragile when faced with movement. This builds a new mental reflex. Instead of spiraling into an action, you spiral into proof. Each action makes the next easier, each proof makes the next stronger. The same brain that once spiraled downward now spirals upward. Understand this, the spiral will always try to return. Drift is patient. But discipline, once trained, is stronger. Discipline does not argue with excuses. It does not try to negotiate with feelings. It simply acts. That is the system that makes results unstoppable, not the absence of spirals, but the mastery of cutting them before they grow. Say this now as a vow: I will not let spirals steal my progress. I act before the loop grows. I cut with movement, I prove with discipline, I break the chain of excuses. Lightbulb comment below: I break the spiral if you are ready to stop overthinking and start cutting through excuses with immediate action. Pushpin, and if this reset freed your mind, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that action ends spirals, and discipline ends drift. Every action you take is more than a task completed. It is a vote for the person you are becoming. You may not realize it, but every choice either confirms the identity of drift or strengthens the identity of discipline. When you skip a commitment, you do not just lose that moment, you cast a vote for the version of you that quits. When you keep a promise, you do not just win the task, you cast a vote for the version of you that follows through. Identity is not shaped in giant declarations, but in these daily votes. And over time, the side with the most votes wins. Most people live unaware of this silent election. They believe their identity is fixed, something set in stone by their past or by their circumstances. But identity is not fixed. It is fluid, constantly rewritten by action. Drift tells you that excuses are harmless, that skipping today does not matter. But each skip is a ballot cast, a tally in the wrong direction. One day of drift seems small. 10 days become a habit. 100 days become identity. That is how people wake up one day unable to recognize the disciplined person they once imagined themselves to be. The law is clear: identity is not what you claim, it is what you prove. You can say, I am disciplined all day, but if your actions say otherwise, the votes will tell the truth. You can call yourself focused, committed, resilient, but the daily ballots you cast through choices are the only evidence that counts. This is why drift is so dangerous. It wins slowly, silently, vote by vote, until it controls the majority of who you are. But the same law that traps you is also the law that frees you. Because every action is another chance to vote. Even if you have spent years drifting, one disciplined action today is a vote for a comeback. One completed promise is a tally for a new identity. And the more of these you stack, the more the balance shifts. Identity is never static. It is always under construction, always waiting for the next ballot. That is why you must never underestimate small decisions. Each one counts. So how do you take control of this silent election? First, become aware. Ask yourself daily, who did I vote for today, discipline or drift? That question alone creates accountability. Second, shrink the decisions. Instead of obsessing over who you will be in 10 years, focus on the choice in front of you. Will you vote for the identity you want, or the one you are escaping? Third, make the act itself rewarding. Every time you cast a disciplined vote, acknowledge it. Tell yourself, that is who I am. This reinforcement rewires your identity faster than vague declarations ever could. Over time, the votes compound. You no longer need to force discipline, because the majority identity has shifted. The person who drifts becomes foreign. The person who disciplines becomes natural. People around you will call it willpower, strength, maybe even luck. But you will know the truth: it was simply the mathematics of identity. You kept casting votes for the person you wanted to be, until that person won. This is the system that makes results unstoppable. Because when discipline is no longer something you do but someone you are, excuses cannot survive. Drift loses its candidates. The election is over, and discipline wins every time. Say this now as a vow: every action I take is a vote. I will vote for discipline. I will vote for strength. I will vote for the identity of the person I am becoming. Lightbulb comment below. I cast my vote for discipline if you are ready to stop drifting and start proving your identity with action. Pushpin, and if this reset shifted your perspective, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that every choice is a ballot, and discipline wins when you vote for it. Anyone can act when energy is high. Anyone can push when the mood is strong. That is not discipline, that is convenience. True discipline is revealed in fatigue. It is in the moments when your body says no, when your mind whispers enough, when your emotions plead for comfort, that your character is tested. Fatigue is the filter that separates the pretenders from the committed. Drift thrives on tiredness, because tiredness provides the perfect excuse. I've done enough. I can stop here. But fatigue is not the end of progress, it is the beginning of proof. Drift tells you that exhaustion is a valid reason to quit. It convinces you that the smart choice is to rest, that tomorrow will be easier, that pushing through is unnecessary. But think of your past. How many times have you told yourself you would pick it up tomorrow, only to lose momentum completely? How many times has fatigue turned into surrender? Drift knows this pattern, and it feeds on it. But discipline knows a different truth. Fatigue is the test that proves whether your commitment was real. The law is clear, commitment is meaningless if it only exists in comfort. Anyone can follow through when it feels good. Few follow through when it feels impossible. Those few are the ones who win. That is why fatigue must be reframed. It is not your enemy. It is your opportunity. Every time you move when you are tired, you prove to yourself that your word is stronger than your weakness. And that proof multiplies. Each rep in fatigue, each step in exhaustion, each action against resistance becomes a deposit in your identity account. You are building resilience. You are becoming unstoppable. The greatest achievements in history were not born from comfort. They were born from persistence through fatigue. The writer finishing pages long after inspiration faded. The athlete running drills long after muscles screamed. The builder laying bricks long after the body begged for rest. Their results may look extraordinary, but they were built in the ordinary grind of tiredness. Fatigue was not their barrier. It was their training ground. So how do you build discipline in fatigue instead of collapsing under it? First, shrink the battle. When tiredness hits, your brain exaggerates the weight of the task. Instead of quitting, tell yourself, I'll just do the next step. That step might be writing one line, lifting one rep, sending one message. Once in motion, fatigue loses power. Second, use fatigue as a signal, not a stop sign. When you feel resistance rise, see it as confirmation. This is the rep that matters most. You are not building strength in the easy moments, you are building it in the hard ones. Third, anchor to identity. Remind yourself, this is who I am. I am the kind of person who finishes even when tired. That shift transforms fatigue from an enemy into a milestone. And here is the paradox: the more you train through fatigue, the less power it holds. At first, every action feels heavy. But over time, fatigue becomes familiar. You stop fearing it. You learn that it cannot break you, it can only reveal you. And the more you endure, the more your confidence grows. You stop doubting whether you can push through, because you have done it countless times before. That certainty is priceless. It is what makes results unstoppable. Remember this: fatigue is not a signal of failure. It is a signal of growth. It is the moment where discipline proves itself, where drift collapses, where identity is forged. Anyone can move when it is easy. The disciplined move when it is hard. And that is why they always win. Say this now as a vow: I will not quit in fatigue. I will prove my commitment in the moments my body and mind resist. Fatigue is my training ground. My discipline is stronger than my weakness. Lightbulb comment below. I push through fatigue if you are ready to stop quitting when tired and start proving that your discipline is real. Pushpin, and if this reset strengthened your resolve, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the daily reminder that fatigue is not the end, it is the test. Excuses are the most dangerous enemy of discipline, because they disguise themselves as logic. Excuses never shout. They whisper. They sound reasonable. They tell you things like, I've done enough, I'll start fresh tomorrow, this isn't the right time, other people have it easier. At first they feel harmless, but each excuse is a small theft of your future. Excuses don't just waste time, they rewire identity. The more you repeat them, the more you believe them. And soon, instead of being someone who acts, you become someone who rationalizes. That is drift at its purest. Drift doesn't need you to quit loudly. It only needs you to keep making small excuses quietly, until discipline disappears completely. Here is the brutal truth: excuses never disappear by themselves. You can't negotiate with them. You can't hope they stop showing up. They regenerate every day. Every morning when you wake, drift is already whispering reasons to delay, to rest, to shrink. If you want to break free, you cannot wait for excuses to vanish. You must kill them. You must root them out before they take root in you. How do you destroy excuses? The first step is exposure. Excuses thrive in the dark. They hide in unconscious patterns. You say, I don't have time, but in truth you spent an hour scrolling. You say, I need to be in the mood, but in truth you're waiting for a feeling that will never arrive. When you shine light on excuses, when you call them by name, they lose their power. Write them down. Make them visible. Confront them in black and white. You will quickly realize that what felt reasonable is actually weakness in disguise. The second step is reversal. Every excuse has a reverse statement that shifts power back to discipline. I don't have time becomes, I will use the time I have. I'm too tired becomes, this is my chance to train under fatigue. I'm not ready becomes, I'll never be ready unless I start now. Excuses cannot be erased, they must be replaced. Each reversal is not just new language, it is new instruction for your brain. And the more you repeat it, the more automatic it becomes. The third step is immediacy. Excuses gain strength the longer you debate them. The moment you start arguing in your head, you're already losing. The key is to act before excuses multiply. Move within 5 seconds. Start before comfort responds. Every action taken immediately is like cutting the root before it spreads. Discipline is not about feeling ready, it is about acting before excuses take shape. The fourth step is identity anchoring. Excuses belong to the old version of you, the drifter, the one who let life slip away. The disciplined version of you does not speak in excuses, they speak in commitments. Every time you catch yourself about to say I can't, remind yourself, that's not my voice anymore. Kill the excuse at the identity level. Replace it with who you are becoming. I am the kind of person who follows through. That sentence alone has the power to cut down any excuse if you truly mean it. And the fifth step is environment. Excuses are contagious. If you surround yourself with people who rationalize laziness, who normalize quitting, who praise comfort, you will adopt their excuses as your own. But if you spend time around people who move without waiting, who act without hesitation, who prove themselves daily, you will start to catch their discipline instead. Excuses thrive in weak environments. They die in strong ones. Choose wisely. Remember this, excuses are lies, and every time you repeat one, you are training your brain to believe the lie. Every excuse is a chain, and every time you cut one, you gain freedom. Success is not stopped by failure. It is stopped by excuses. Failure teaches. Excuses kill. You cannot afford to let them live. Say this now as your vow: I will not make excuses. I will expose them, reverse them, replace them, and act before they grow. Excuses do not own me. Discipline owns me. Lightbulb comment below: no excuses, only action if you are ready to kill the lies and live in discipline. Pushpin, and if this message burned away one excuse in your mind, subscribe and hit the bell so you never drift back into the old patterns. The voice you hear most often is not from a teacher, not from a coach, not from a critic. It is your own. The words you repeat to yourself become the script you live by. That script can either chain you to drift or propel you into discipline. Most people are not defeated by external enemies. They are defeated by internal dialogue. They wake up and immediately say, I'm tired. I can't handle this. I'm already behind. That tone sets the day. That narrative becomes their life. They don't need outside sabotage, because their own words are doing the sabotage. Your inner voice is powerful because it never stops. It is present when no one is watching. It comments on every action, every failure, every attempt. If that voice is filled with excuses, doubts, and complaints, then no system of discipline will hold. You will collapse under your own narrative. But if that voice is filled with strength, clarity, and commitment, you become unstoppable. Discipline is not just about action, it is about conversation. The way you talk to yourself under pressure, under fatigue, under temptation, determines whether you rise or fall. Drift wants you to believe that your inner voice is fixed, that it is simply the echo of your past and you have no control. But that is false. Your voice is programmable. It listens to repetition. It learns from practice. If you keep saying I can't, your brain will agree. If you keep saying I will, your brain will adjust. The law is simple: what you repeat, you believe. And what you believe, you become. So how do you take control of self-talk? The first step is awareness. Most people are not even conscious of the things they say internally. They let thoughts run wild like untrained dogs. Start catching those lines. Write them down. Identify the recurring sentences. Do they weaken you or strengthen you? The second step is reframing. Every weak statement has a disciplined counterpart. I can't do this becomes I will learn as I go. I'm not ready becomes progress makes me ready. This is too hard becomes this challenge is shaping me. The third step is repetition. You cannot change your inner voice with a single replacement. Just as excuses grow by daily repetition, discipline grows by daily reinforcement. You must plant strong statements every day until they feel natural. At first they may feel fake. But repetition makes them real. Remember, your brain does not know the difference between a truth and a consistent instruction. It simply adapts to what it hears most often. The fourth step is alignment. Self-talk cannot just be empty slogans. It must be tied to action. If you say, I keep my promises, then break your promises, your brain will reject the statement. But if you say it, and then follow through even in small ways, your brain locks onto it as identity. That is how belief is built. The more your words and actions match, the stronger your discipline becomes. The fifth step is upgrade. As you grow, your self-talk must evolve. The statements that carried you through early stages will not be enough later. In the beginning, saying I can do this may be enough. But later, you must raise the bar. I don't just start. I finish. I don't just try. I dominate. Your voice must reflect the standard of the person you are becoming. Otherwise, drift sneaks back in disguised as comfort. Remember this: your self-talk is not background noise. It is the most powerful training ground for discipline. It is the soundtrack of your life. Every word you allow yourself to repeat is building or breaking you. Do not let drift write your script. Speak like someone you respect. Speak like someone committed. Speak like someone who finishes. Say this now as your vow: I will train my inner voice. I will not allow weak words to define me. My self-talk will be disciplined, strong, and aligned with the person I am becoming. Lightbulb comment below: strong voice, strong life. If you are ready to rewrite your inner dialogue and let discipline rule your words. Push pin. And if this message helped you hear your own voice differently, subscribe and hit the bell so you never drift back to the old script. Most people treat discipline like a mood. They wait for the spark, they wait for the good day, they wait for motivation to strike. That is why drift wins. Drift feeds on randomness. It thrives when your actions depend on how you feel. If you only show up when it feels right, your results will always be inconsistent. And inconsistency is drift in disguise. Discipline cannot be random. It must be systematic. It must be something you design, not something you hope for. Think about the strongest performers you admire. They do not rely on luck. They have systems. Writers write at the same time every day, even when inspiration is absent. Athletes train whether the body feels light or heavy. Entrepreneurs review their numbers daily, whether the results are encouraging or discouraging. Their results look unstoppable because their habits are not tied to mood, they are tied to systems. Drift tells you that freedom is doing whatever you feel like. But real freedom comes from structure. The paradox is clear: rules create liberation. When you build a system, you no longer waste energy deciding what to do, when to do it, or whether you feel like it. You simply follow the design. Your willpower is protected. Your discipline is automated. That is why systems are stronger than intentions. Intentions fade. Systems endure. So how do you build the system that makes results inevitable? Start small. Choose one anchor habit that matters most to your future. Place it at a fixed time and place. Do it daily until it feels automatic. Then build layers around it. For example, waking early becomes the anchor. Reading for 20 minutes becomes the layer. Writing one page becomes the next. Each piece links to the other, until your morning itself becomes a machine. You don't debate. You don't negotiate. You simply follow. Second, design friction. Drift thrives in ease. If excuses are easy, you will take them. But when the system makes excuses harder than action, discipline becomes natural. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Keep your notebook open on your desk. Remove apps from your phone that tempt you to drift. Systems are not just about adding, they are about subtracting obstacles to discipline. Third, track and review. Systems work when they are measured. Each day, mark whether you followed through. Do not measure perfection, measure consistency. If you missed, record why. That awareness will cut drift before it repeats. The point is not to shame yourself, but to see the patterns clearly. Once visible, drift cannot hide. Fourth, upgrade through environment. Your system does not exist in isolation. It must be protected by the space you live in and the people you spend time with. If your environment is filled with distractions, negativity, or laziness, your system will collapse. But if your environment reflects discipline, your system becomes stronger. Clean your workspace. Surround yourself with those who execute. Place reminders where your eyes land first. You are not just building habits, you are engineering a space that pulls you toward discipline automatically. And finally, connect your system to identity. Tell yourself, this is who I am. Not I hope to do this, not I'll try to do this, but I am the person who does this every day. Your brain wants to remain consistent with your identity. When you declare discipline as your identity, your system becomes more than routine, it becomes proof of who you are. Remember, drift is randomness. Discipline is design. One leaves your future to chance. The other guarantees results. You cannot build a strong life on weak systems. Build the system, trust the system, follow the system. Your results will not be immediate, but they will be inevitable. Say this now as your vow: I will not leave my future to chance. I will design systems that make discipline automatic and results unstoppable. Lightbulb comment below: my system wins if you are ready to stop relying on moods and start building systems that carry you forward. Pushpin, and if this message helped you see that discipline is not magic but structure, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the blueprint that keeps you out of drift. Life is not a controlled laboratory. It is chaos. It is interruptions, problems, setbacks, unexpected noise. Most people wait for the conditions to settle before they move. They say, I'll start once things calm down. I'll focus when life slows. I'll be consistent when the chaos ends. But chaos never ends. Drift thrives on chaos because it knows you are waiting for calm that will never come. Drift whispers that your discipline is only valid when life feels perfect. That is how people stay stuck for decades, always waiting, never building. Discipline is not the absence of chaos. It is the ability to move inside chaos without losing order. It is the power to create structure even when the environment is unstable. That is why discipline makes results unstoppable. While others delay until conditions improve, you progress regardless of conditions. While others are paralyzed by problems, you adapt and keep moving. Chaos becomes background noise. You keep building. Drift says order comes from outside. It says you need the perfect workspace, the perfect timing, the perfect mood. But the law of discipline says order comes from inside. If you can hold your system steady under disruption, then no disruption can derail you. The more chaotic the environment, the more valuable your discipline becomes. So how do you build order in chaos? First, strip to the essentials. When chaos hits, your brain feels overloaded. Instead of collapsing, ask, what is the one action that keeps my system alive today? Do that first. Even one small act maintains momentum. Second, protect your anchors. Anchors are the habits that stabilize everything else. In chaos, never abandon them. Whether it's writing your daily page, training for 10 minutes, or reviewing your goals, these anchors keep you rooted. Without them, chaos sweeps you away. Third, shorten your horizon. Chaos makes you overthink the future. You drown in what-ifs. Cut the horizon. Focus only on the next step, the next rep, the next block of time. Discipline is built one brick at a time, and in chaos, you only need to lay the next brick. Fourth, reframe chaos as training. Do not resent it. Chaos is your chance to sharpen focus under pressure. Every time you act despite noise, you strengthen your core. Soon, chaos stops rattling you because you've trained inside it. And fifth, lock identity. Tell yourself, I am the kind of person who moves forward even in storms. That identity makes decisions automatic. You no longer debate whether the day is too messy, too noisy, too inconvenient. You already decided who you are. The action flows from identity, not from conditions. Remember this, chaos will always exist. If your discipline depends on calm, you will drift forever. If your discipline is built to withstand chaos, you become unstoppable. You do not need silence to create progress. You need discipline to create progress. And discipline is yours to choose every day. Say this now as your vow, I will not wait for calm. I will not let chaos dictate my progress. I create order inside me, and I will keep building no matter the storm. Lightbulb comment below. I build in chaos if you are ready to stop waiting for calm and start moving with discipline no matter the noise. Pushpin, and if this message grounded you in the middle of life's storms, subscribe and hit the bell so you never drift when the world gets loud. Discipline is not a temporary tool. It is not something you use for a season and then put down. Discipline is identity. It is the system you choose to live inside. Drift has always whispered to you, tomorrow will be easier, excuses are reasonable, comfort is deserved. And maybe for years, you believed it. You repeated the same cycles, lost the same battles, started over more times than you can count. That is the cost of drift. Drift wastes years. Drift kills dreams. Drift makes potential disappear quietly. But now you know the truth. Drift cannot stand against discipline. Excuses collapse when you act anyway. Chaos loses its grip when you hold to your system. Fatigue becomes proof, not weakness. And your inner voice can be trained to speak strength, not defeat. The difference between drift and discipline is not talent, luck, or timing. It is choice. The choice you make daily. The choice you make in this moment. Most people will not make this choice. They will keep floating, waiting for calm that never arrives, waiting for motivation that never comes, waiting for someone else to rescue them. But you are not most people. If you are here, still listening, still absorbing, then you know you are called to something greater. And greater requires discipline. Greater requires habits that hold even when you feel like breaking. Greater requires that you stop drifting and start building, block by block, step by step, until your life itself is proof. There is one final law: results are not accidental. They are engineered. They are designed. And you now hold the blueprint. You cannot unknow it. You cannot unhear it. The only question left is whether you will live it. So here is your vow: from this day forward, I will not drift. I will not excuse. I will not wait. I will live inside discipline. I will build systems that make success inevitable. I will keep moving in fatigue. I will hold steady in chaos. I will train my voice to speak strength. I will finish what I start. My life will be the evidence of my discipline. This is not a wish. This is not a hope. This is a declaration. Say it with me now: no more drift. No more excuses. Only discipline. Lightbulb comment below, from drift to discipline, if you are claiming this vow today. Pushpin, and if this series gave you strength, subscribe and hit the bell so you stay inside this system every day until your results are unstoppable.